Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Screws Faced podcast. Today we have another episode in the mini-series of Boots to Boardroom, in which I interview a lot of ex-mil vets that have transitioned over to corporate cyber, and basically just discuss their journey of how they've actually managed that transition, and hopefully provide a little bit of tips for anyone that is going through that transition themselves. So my guest today is John Fraser, and the whole podcast will be pretty much going through John's journey, so it'll be a little bit different. I know I get the guests to do an introduction at the start, but basically that's going to take the whole thesis of the pod. So John, welcome to the podcast, and where we'll start, John, is pretty much when you left school then. So did you always plan on going in the mill? Did you have a life before the mill? Talk to me about that time.
Yeah, so I guess you could say the probably defining feature was I joined very young. Okay. So I did my A-levels at school, and then worked at Halfords for a little bit, worked for my dad, did some shifts in a takeaway as a pizza chef, which was good fun. And then, I kind of towards the end of my school career, I always knew I wanted to go into something military-esque. Yes. I didn't want to go to university. It was probably the driving factor. Yeah, I was done with it. I always liked being a bit different, and everyone else was going to university, so I was like, I want to go do something different. So my original plan was to go, because I'd seen Top Gun, to go be an RAF fighter pilot. And at 18, surprisingly, they don't take many 18-year-old fighter pilots. So I went back. I actually got to the selection board for that. And then that was quite a good learning experience, and then decided to go do something a bit different. So when that didn't work out, I decided to go, okay, what other options do I have? I looked at the Army. I watched a few war films like Platoon and Apocalypse Now. I was like, yeah, sounds great. I'm sure that's exactly what it's like. I'll sign up to it.
Following Charlie Sheen's footsteps.
Yeah, and then exactly. And then literally as I was walking out, my mum said, well, can you at least think about going for officer selection? You've got some quite good A-levels. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then, before I knew it, I was on the bus to Sandhurst and started just after I turned 19 at Sandhurst. So yeah, it all happened really fast. I turned up completely ignorant. I had no idea what I'd joined, what I'd signed up for. Didn't really know much about the Army. I'd had family members who'd served in the military, and I'd spoken to people in the military, obviously, as you do before you go in. But in terms of the culture shock and even what it meant to be an officer was all a bit
yes.
New. But I approached it as I did with a lot of things at that age, which was a case of, I'll be able to do it, no problem, and which is probably the only reason I got through selection in hindsight was because I turned up there fully expecting to get through it, and they probably took my ignorance as confidence.
Yes.
Like, off you go.
Yes.
And then, so started, I was 19, I joined in the winter of 2011, and then, had an absolute shock to the system for the first 3 months, and as you can imagine.
But that's what base training's about, though, isn't it? It's about, bang, we're gonna beast you a little bit here and just get you out of Civi mindset and into military mindset. It's what it's there for, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I was ready for like the beasting aspect of it. I turned up pretty fit and was ready to do the sleep deprivation. But I think the bit I completely neglected to think about was what it meant to be an officer and a leader and a manager of people, which is obviously the core component of Sandhurst training, is how to do that leadership and management piece. So so I found as the course went on, it got easier and easier, and as I started to understand it and mature, I matured rapidly, as you can imagine. But it was a really good experience by the end of it. And I went from I came very, very close to quitting quite early on.
Okay,
really close. So I'd actually been, I don't tell many people this, but I'd actually been back termed. So they were like, you're not meeting the standard. This is like your last chance saloon. And it was really interesting because I had, most of the officers who the training staff were like, you're just too young.
Yep.
Go do some life experience, go travel, go work somewhere. And there was only one officer who was the American, who was the platoon commander at the time, and was like, yeah, don't do that. Suck it up.
Yep.
Come back at the end of the weekend and start again. And I took his advice. I took the advice from my family and friends, and I think my ego couldn't let me go back as a failure, so I was always going to come back and do it in the end. And then after that, it got a lot easier, and I made it through.
So before we go any further, then John, a couple really interesting points that you made there that I just want to bring you up on. So, firstly, I've always wondered this about because I was initially looking at the mill myself when I was much younger. and never went through with it, chose a different path. But I always thought like, oh yeah, I'll go through the education route and then come in at officer level. Is there a hidden stigma around those that are, these young kids that are coming in with education, coming in at officer level, or it's like, no, this is what it's designed for. It's like we promote getting a bit of an education and then coming in to the mill. Like me looking from the outside, I'm like, I bet they struggle to get a bit of authority coming in fresh faced, but at a higher level than most, for example.
Yeah, I think it's a really challenging thing to do.
Yeah.
And, probably the hardest part of the Sandhurst course has been selected for Sandhurst in the first instance, because they're looking for whatever it is that they think you have in you, those raw materials to be able to go into a platoon of of seasoned soldiers and have that respect and authority, but do it in the right way. Because if you go in, I was 21 by the time I took over my first platoon. I was the youngest in the platoon.
Well, okay.
So to go in there and say, right, you're all going to start doing what I want to do. This is my train set. These guys have been in the military for years, loads of experience. They'd have just laughed you out the park. So you need to have that self-awareness, I think, to go in there and work out, okay, I am still learning, and be humble enough to say I've got a lot to learn. And that's where the senior NCOs, the non-commissioned officers, play a massive role, because for them first 2 years, they're effectively coaching you on how to be a leader. So you spend a year as a second lieutenant and then 2 years as a lieutenant. And someone always said to me, which stuck with me, is when you're a lieutenant, the L is your learner plates.
Yes.
And everyone knows that. So you don't really, yes, you are the officer. Yes, you have responsibilities and management responsibilities and all the rest of it, but you are learning your trade. And the people that get it wrong in those early stages, the ones that don't realise they're in the learning phase of being an officer.
Yeah.
And try and go in there and, make radical changes. That might not always work. So it's a really challenging thing to do. But if you have that self-awareness and that humility to come, I'm going to learn. And then, the last thing they said to me at Sandhurst before I went on to take over the platoon was, you just remember you're there to look after the people. So if you do right by the people,
they'll look after you.
You're going to do pretty well.
Yep.
That's the main thing. So yeah, it's a challenging thing to do, and but they prepare you for it. If you listen to what they teach you at Sandhurst, which not a lot of people do. Well, no, most people do, but not everyone does.
Yes.
If you listen to the core teachings, then it's they give you all the tools you need to go in and do those first couple of years and make a success of it.
And that segues perfectly as to the next point I wanted to bring to you. And it does sound like that initial training, it's elite in the sense of it's so multifaceted. So I'll break that down a little bit. It's like, yes, it's the beasting. It is to it's to strip you of all sort of the your fat tendencies or your extra stuff. Just be like let's get back to you are a number, essentially. And it's just like, we are going to strip you back and then we're going to make you a soldier, for example. But that being said, it's also mentally as well. It's like, okay, we're also going to teach you all these different leadership things. So you mentioned there a few minutes ago about being was it back turned? Yeah. Do they sometimes do that? Is it purely because you're failing physically, or do they go, this person's got something, but I want to see if I threaten him with a potential like you're going to fall behind a little bit here, how's he going to respond? Do they do that as a test sometimes?
It's part of it. They'll never back term you if you're meeting the standard. So the back term is, in effect, you're not meeting the standard we need you to be at.
Is that purely physical, though? No.
So I was actually pretty fit at the time.
Yeah.
So I was having no issues on any of the fitness standards. It was my maturity, if I'm being honest.
Right.
It was just my ability to, and my organisation. I was all over the place.
Like admin and stuff.
Yeah, like packing but like inevitably every time we'd pack a day sack to go on exercise, I'd forget something, a compass or a map. And it was just a continuous, and it was just that lack of organisation, that lack of maturity. And for me as a personal thing, though, it was the most important part of it, because it was that mental resilience to do like probably absolutely the hardest 3 months of my life up until that point.
Yep.
So then get told, right, you're going back to week 5 from week 14, gutting blow.
Yeah.
It would have been very, very easy to walk away and go, you know what, I'll go do something else. I'll go to uni. I've got the A-levels to go to university. I'll go do that. But is that mental resilience was probably one of the biggest learning aspects of it. To go, you've had a setback, really big setback at the time. Well, it felt like a big one at the time, and then to go and then come back and start again with only a weekend break. As you can imagine, I had a pretty good blowout that weekend to get off my chest. But yeah, so yeah, it was a great lesson for me as a person. But yeah, it was because of that maturity in that organisation. Yep. So it meant I had to rapidly mature.
Yep.
And, get up to speed. And then after that, there was no real issues. I guess I had the advantage because I knew what was coming in the next couple of weeks. But yes, it was. I'd learned the game by the end of the second time round, so it becomes a lot easier when you kind of realise it is a bit of a big game, really.
Yeah, absolutely, as anything is, to be honest with you. So let's move it forward then, John. And it's obviously past training now. You've become an officer, and how has your identity started to shift? What sort of leadership characteristics are you now picking up on? And sort of tell me how you've sort of progressed in your military career from Sandhurst then.
Yeah, so the first thing you do out of Sandhurst is you go do like an attachment to a unit to kind of get the Sandhurstified, I guess. Not really a term, but to kind of get you out of the training environment into the real world. And I went to 7th Armoured Brigade in Hona. So you get some exposure. You go meet real soldiers doing a real job, which was a good experience. Then you go do your phase 2 training. So I joined the Royal Signals, so you go learn what it is to be a Royal Signals officer, some of the technical components and stuff like that. So at that point, I still think I was quite immature, but I had a bit more confidence from a professional standpoint. So I feel like I picked up the lessons of what it was to put the soldiers first, to selfless commitment, serve to lead, all those good Sandhurst teachings. I think where I lacked at the time, which was probably to the detriment of my career in the early stages, was that awareness of my peers and my seniors.
Okay.
So I think, I'm sure someone will know if that's not the case, but I think I always was quite a good officer for the soldiers, but not necessarily a good officer for my peers and my bosses. And I was very lucky, actually, in my first tour. I went to a Gurkha unit, so I had Gurkhas who, a fantastic experience to go and do that as your first posting. And I had a really good OC as well, who was just the right character that I needed at the time to kind of coach me into becoming a more accomplished officer. So, it was very much a learning process still. I was learning throughout. I had a fantastic time. But yeah, very much learning my trade as a leader and a manager at that time.
Yeah.
And then after that, after about 20 months, I then got a really weird offer. I had 2 offers actually of what to do next. I came back to back, which very unusual.
Okay.
So the first one, I'd been accepted to do an in-service degree.
Okay.
So I never went to university, but they said, yeah, we have this scheme. You basically you pause your career for 3 years and you go up to university, we'll still pay you.
I was going to say, are you still getting an income for this?
Yeah, still getting paid. We'll pay for all your fees. We'll put you in accommodation.
Great opportunity.
I was like, yeah, I don't see what the catch is. So there's a big catch, you pause your career for 3 years. I was like, now I was 22. I'm 22. All my peers are 3 or 4 years older than me anyway. So it was an absolute no-brainer. And then because of the time difference, so they need to find something to do with me for the last 6 months before university started. So, and again, I still don't know how this came about, but I ended up getting sent to Saudi Arabia to work as part of a, I can't remember what they call it, it's like a defence attaché unit, where it was all about bringing in signals equipment and capability into the Saudi National Guard, and it was kind of like a liaison role.
Yeah.
And I went out there for 7 months, lived out there, and had an amazing time. And in fact, again, very lucky in that there was a mentor out there who, to be honest, at the time was probably the most influential person I'd met up until that point in my career, because he was incredibly experienced. He had loads of time in the SF community and all the rest of it. And he, for whatever reason, decided he was going to make use of me somehow. I think he was really busy.
Yep.
And just the amount of opportunity and responsibility he gave me so young, it actually started to make me think, well, actually, maybe I can be quite good at this. Because all my reports up to that time would be like, yeah, he's a good lad, but, needs to grow up a little bit and, all the rest of it. And
so do you think that's why they funneled that towards you, to be like, look, he does need to mature a bit, therefore let's pause his career, let's send him back? What was the reason that they gave you the opportunity to do that?
I don't know. I'm not even sure it was planned. I think I'd asked for the degree because
Yep.
I knew it was a thing, and I'd got it because I don't think there was any other applicants. And then I think the Saudi Arabia thing came about just because they needed to find something for me to do.
Okay.
And someone knew someone who was quite senior out there. Was like, yeah, we'll take a junior lieutenant for 7 months.
Yeah.
Why not? So, and it was there was some great experiences out there. I was fully embedded within a Saudi National Guard unit with a translator, trying to help them get everything from a new plant pot for the office through to just fix this entire fibre network for the east of the country. I'm like,
At 22?
23 out there.
What an experience.
So again, that helped me mature really quickly, and I think I actually did a good job out there. They told me I did on my report, and that kind of gave me the confidence to think, well, maybe I can be quite good at this. Maybe I do have what it takes. Because up to that point, I was kind of thinking, I'm enjoying it, but is this a long-term thing for me? Maybe not, because I'm seeing peers who, some who I rated, some who I didn't, who are obviously getting a lot more plaudits for their career. I'm like, how am I getting this wrong? Like, what am I doing wrong? But it wasn't up until that tour of duty where I was like, actually, I kind of get it now. And then I came back and went to university for 3 years.
Yeah.
So, which again, timing was good because it gave me a bit more breathing space to grow up, to become a bit more sensible. But also it gave me a vocation, which was my degree in ethical hacking for computer security.
Okay.
And interestingly, I remember selecting the course and everyone was like, oh, you should go do something like physics or electronic engineering. That's what everyone else does. And I was like, there's this hacking thing. I think cybersecurity could be quite important. And this was 2013 when I was picking the course.
Yep.
And they were like, it's a bit of a risk. And it's not one of the Russell Group universities because it was up at Northumbria. And I was like, well, I'm going to go with it. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be important. And then by the time I'd finished the degree and came back, it was pretty important. Everyone was talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So I kind of hit the perfect timing to come back into the core with the skills everyone was looking for.
Yep.
It wasn't really around. So
yeah, two fantastic points I want to bring you back on. You said at the end of your tour in Saudi Arabia that it kind of like you had a light bulb moment and it clicked. And let me also stress that when you're saying there, I think I needed to mature. Let me tell you, there is a lot of 22-year-olds who are not doing that, who are far less. I'm sure you're putting it into comparison with your peers in the military, exactly. Absolutely. But yeah, it kind of sounds like, if I was you, it could have been a massive risk, that, in the sense of like, okay, light bulb's gone off, you were already having a bit of doubts about your maturity, but then you go into university, that could have essentially been like, oh, maybe the military's not for me. It sounds like it obviously didn't transpire, but that was a massive risk. Do you not think, or...
Yeah, it was, and and for the few officers that get that opportunity, it doesn't always go smoothly.
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways it can go off the rails, as you can imagine. But I'll put that down to my wife because I met her just before I went, so she kept me sensible for the duration. And I think the other part of it is I really enjoyed the course. It was to go and learn how to do cybersecurity. So, and to be honest, I was rubbish at computers up until that point.
Right.
Yeah, if I remember some of my colleagues on the phase 2 training having to show me how to copy and paste things in Excel.
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, this might be a big ask, but it was brilliant because, it took me right back to first principles, learn how to code, learn how to set up networks, build websites, and then towards the end of the second year, they're like, right, now you've got all the raw skills, I'm going to teach you how to do hacking. And here's a module on the legalities of it, so anything you do after this is on you. But And they actually taught us how to do, offensive cybersecurity operations, which was a great thing to have because it gave me that skill set that very few of my peers had. A few of them did. And some of them have gone on to have very successful careers in the cybersecurity industry. But not a lot of my peers at the time could actually sit at a keyboard and fire up Kali Linux and start doing the different aspects of a cyber attack. Whereas coming out of university, I had that skill set to be able to do, which was a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of nonsense being talked about in the military about cyber at that time, some absolute madness.
Yeah.
And it was quite good to have a degree of authority to say, that's completely wrong, that's not going to work. Or that's a really good idea, we could maybe do it in this way, which not many direct entry officers had at the time because just not a lot of people joined with that type of degree. So it's different now. Loads of people have now been shoehorned into that path, which is a really...
Of course, yeah, but it sounds like you say, timing was absolutely perfect for you. And so when you came back to the mill, cyber was now at your forefront of your mind. Like you've found like a bit of a passion, you found a bit of a home for it. So did you go into a cyber role from there?
So I had to do a year as a squadron second in command.
Okay.
So completely no utility of my degree whatsoever. But
Yes.
they sold it to me. Says, right, we'll only make you do a year, but it's just to get you back out of the university mindset into a military mindset. That actually makes sense.
Okay, yeah. A little bit of Sandhurstism again. Like
Yeah,
get you back into it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a proper role, but it was, we just want you to get used to doing. What weirdly happened, they changed the scheme like about 6 months before I finished at university. So where I would have paused my career, they actually went, well, we can't do that anymore. And someone put in a complaint and they changed the whole system. So I got retrospectively promoted. So I actually came out much senior than I would have otherwise done so. But so I came back, that ended up getting cut short because I did get sent off to do an op shader tour. Where I was going to be the defensive cyber operations staff officer in one of the headquarters out in the Middle East. So that, again, it wasn't really like hands on the keyboard cyber as I'd learned it at uni, but it was linked to it and quite good to learn a bit more around the staff officer component, how to operate in a headquarters, but also think about. I got introduced to things like the NIST framework, which would become really important, obviously, in the future for me then. And it was also a great adventure. I worked with some great people out there, some really great characters who I still keep in touch with today. One of them, I won't name his name, but he was an RAF flight sergeant who travelled with me around the Middle East, and we had a great time. A very funny guy. Yeah. Very good at what he does. Again, another great IT professional he's since left and has done a really good career himself. So,
well, that segues perfectly where I want to take this, John. Then, so obviously you found a bit of a home in now. You obviously went back into the military. You progressed then into security roles. But like when you then talked about the time now where you were like, okay, your time in the mil's coming to an end. Why is it coming to an end? And did you actually lean on, like you say, this RAF person that when you were leaving, like how did you leave? Who do I speak to? Talk to me about this transition out of the mill, man.
Yeah, so I mean that tour ended in 2018, and I didn't leave till 2023. So I did do a number of cyber roles after that, which again all good for different reasons. Met some great characters, some of them who were just brilliant people and great leadership role models.
So had you seen cyber grow then in the mill, like during 2013 to 2018? You were like, okay, this has exploded.
Absolutely, and I was quite lucky to be in different positions where I was able to see it up close and different aspects of it as well. So, a really good experience. And I did some time on secondment with the Foreign Office and different parts of government to see it from their perspective. But yeah, in terms of the mentors and the network I'd built up over the time, I think it was really helpful. There was a few people who I could look to who had left the military and had gone on to have, really impressive careers outside. A really close friend who ended up working for Google, who went on a similar journey, and I was able to look at what he did and think, actually, there is a really good route to stay technical, but also go to some really cool and exciting companies, and that was kind of what gave me the inspiration not to leave, because he'd been left quite a while, and constantly asked me like, why are you still in? Which was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Yeah. They keep giving me interesting jobs.
Yeah.
But yeah, having those people you could look to and see them do it. But everyone's different. And all of the people I've worked with and who inspired me throughout my career, they inspired me for different reasons. There was no one really I went to and said, I'm just going to copy what they did, because I couldn't do it, because they'd all had different experiences. I'd had different experiences. So it was about taking the best aspects of the different people who had left and the lessons. And I got a lot of advice, because the one thing they say is go network, go speak to everyone, go talk to everyone, which I did. Some people, the advice was terrible. I was like, looking back on it, I was like, I wouldn't give that to anyone.
Yes.
So you got to be careful of the bad advice that gets thrown out there as much as the good advice. But I think, again, it's down to the individual. You've got to look at who you are as a person, what you want to achieve, and then try and select the bits of advice from the different people along the way. And a good spread of people as well. Like, if I just went and spoke to all the majors who had left around the same time that I did, or a year before I did, they'd all give me the same advice.
Of course.
So, I think a variety of advice is pretty important.
Yeah, like say, no one's journey is going to be the same. We've all got different sort of reasons for doing it. So, talk to me about yourself. Why were you leaving then? Obviously, was it physically? Could you no longer do the military, or was there something going on personally? Like, talk to me about that time leaving then, and when the decision came for yourself.
So, what actually happened, and this is a true story. So, it was in February 2023.
Okay.
I had a dream that I'd left and signed off.
Okay.
Just a dream. And I woke up the next morning and I said to my wife, I'm going to do it. I think I want to go. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, in the dream, I was really happy. She's like, okay, whatever. Like, just dismissing it as you would, right?
Yeah.
I actually went in, sat at my desk for about 30 minutes with a coffee. I went, yeah, sod it, and signed off.
Yeah.
So it happened. I came back and told her, I said, I've signed off. We've got a year to work out what we're doing. She was like, you've done what? So it was a bit of a flash to bang, but I think it had been building up over some time. So I'd been thinking about it in the back of my mind. There's probably three main reasons that kind of happened sequentially that kind of forced me out. So one of them was a conversation I had with the Royal Signal's career managers whilst I was at staff college. So I was in my first job as a major at this time. And it dawned on me that, the next 3 years of my career were effectively meaningless, because no matter how well I performed, the next promotion was going to be in about 8 years' time, just based off stats and numbers. So I was thinking about this long and hard, and it was like, so it doesn't matter if I'm the best in my role, the worst in my role, I have to wait these 8 years.
Yeah.
And, I looked at some of the lieutenant colonel roles that I'd worked with in various headquarters and thought, I could do that today.
Yeah.
So I have to wait 8 years to maybe get a shot of doing something I'm good enough to, or I think I'm good enough to do now. Now, it might be that I was nowhere near good enough and those jobs would have been well out of my depth, but I think it's important because that's what I was feeling at the time. I was like, I could do that, and I have to wait 8 years.
A decade,
Yeah, and that's with me having to go take the right jobs at the right place, to completely sacrifice, my wife's career, to move to places maybe I don't really want to live. So that had been playing on my mind for a while, but I did go into a really interesting job in the Foreign Office. So I was enjoying that. I think the other part of it was I had to go and do like an overseas visit, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks and very short notice. And I just had my daughter at the time.
Yep.
I was like, this is not good. It's a lot of pressure on my wife to look after her. She was working full time as well.
Yep.
But also I didn't really want to go. I didn't really want to leave the family.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'm not enjoying this, doing weird and exotic things in weird exotic places, I'm never going to enjoy it.
Yes.
So that had kind of built up as well, and then I think I was at that point on like quite a high, and I was looking at the roles that was coming next. I was like, okay, if I could get an exciting role that interests me, then maybe it's worth staying. I was looking at what the opportunities were out there, and I just went, there's about one or two I'd maybe enjoy.
Yep.
And I think all those things kind of, compounded each other. I'd had the dream. I went, yeah, it's time to go. And then, and I got early release, which, again, my boss at the time, I owe a great debt of thanks to, because he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He let me go at a time it would have been quite detrimental to his team as well. But I'd had the opportunity. He'd come up from Dominette, and I was like, I really want to take it. It works from a domestic standpoint. It works from what I want to do in my career standpoint. And he said, yeah, you can go. I was like, well, thank you very much. Hugely grateful for him to do that, because if he hadn't have released me, I wouldn't have been able to take the Nominate. I wouldn't have ended up where I'm here today.
So that sounds relatively smooth then in terms of transition. Were you looking at around the market for a while, or did Nominate come up quite quickly?
So I'd had a few offers, and I was talking to a few different companies, and I think I'd basically been offered the job at Nominate and a job at Capgemini.
Yep.
So I was considering both of them, and I think Nominate were quicker with the offer, and I think the guy who I'd be working for, I thought was really good. When I met him, I was like, you know what, I do like this guy. He was good in the interview. He spoke really well. The job, and then the other part of it was the job role was a hands-on threat hunter. So this was my chance to get back, take a step back from the management and leadership and actually go do something technical.
Yep.
Because my logic was, if I go and just go into management, I'm at that stage now where university was far enough behind. I hadn't really kept up with it as much as I probably could have done. Is if I don't do a technical role now, I'm never doing a technical role again. And I was like, if I want to go up into the management roles, I'm going to have to do that without the credibility of being able to do it. So it was a bit of a gamble, and I said, but I'll take the technical role. And yeah, again, Nominate was a great company. I really enjoyed my time there. Some great people, really good team, who I still keep in touch with now, and they're doing really well. But it gave me the chance to. I remember getting there in the first week, and they were like, "Okay, here's your laptop. Yeah, just knock up some, some keys, and you can log into the servers, and you can just go." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I've got a lot to learn real quickly." But thankfully, it gave me the space to kind of ease my way back into the technical side of it, whilst also adding some value in some of the more, strategic or, longer term planning aspects. So Nominate was great for that. And then they had a bit of a restructure. I ended up being the team lead, which was great.
That's like 8 months, weren't it?
Yeah, it was quite quick. But, I think, again, timing was perfect because they went through a restructure. They wanted someone to lead the team. And obviously I brought quite a lot of leadership experience, which was good. But equally, I was probably the least technical of the analysts. So it was, what else can we do with John? We'll put him in the leadership role.
Oh, I think you're downplaying yourself.
Yeah, stop him breaking all the databases. So, but yeah, it was really good. And then, it was going well. Nominate's got a great mission and a great opportunity. So they run the .uk TLD, and we were working really hard on minimising, domain abuse and fraud, which the team there is still doing, I think, and doing some really good work on that. And it was really interesting. And again, great to get a really good hands-on Intel experience from the corporate world. And then, the Capital Group reached out and said, would you like to come, be our threat intel manager? And the opportunity, I wasn't looking to leave Nominate at the time. It really was. They approached me and they said, there's got this opportunity. And I think there's always three things, I always think about when considering a role is A, is it a role I can actually do and I enjoy doing? So threat intel manager was I decided that threat intel was the field I kind of wanted to specialize in. There was the company itself, like, does the culture feel like a right fit? Does it feel like the right fit for me? Is it a place where I'll enjoy working and being in? And then I think probably the most important of all of them is who you're going to go work for.
Yes.
And, the person who I still work for, although he is abandoning me in a couple of weeks, is because he's been moving on to another opportunity. Really impressive guy, ex-military as well, with a lot of experience in the sector. I think I always try and look. So again, it was advice given to me years ago. I can't remember who gave it to me. But so if you can go work with someone you think you're going to learn from, and you want to kind of emulate in your career in some way, then that's a really good place to go. Because if you go work for someone who you don't think you're going to learn anything from, or you don't really want to follow their career path, you'll never learn anything. You just end up getting frustrated, I think. So I've always kind of thought about those three things when looking at a role, and with Capital Group, those three things were there in abundance. So yeah, it was a no-brainer.
Fantastic. Just like that, John, we've come to our time, unfortunately, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface on what you're currently doing, so I might just have to get you back in for a round two.
We'll do a part two if you have me back, for sure. So
absolutely. If anybody has any questions for John, or like I say, this Boots to Boardroom series now has got quite a few episodes, so if anybody has a similar story or would like to learn more, obviously, about John's journey, I'll be sure to do a round two on this one as well. But if you wanted to reach out to John directly, then I'll be sure to put his information down below. But yeah, once again, John, thank you very much for coming on the Civi Space podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Good to be here.
Man.